So we're making progress. So that's just a quick context, and we'll just have a conversation. So we started in 2016. Jeremy and I met in 2017, and Jeremy Jordan and Rich Klawiter here, and we'll get to both their stories. And we happened to meet in Cook County Jail, which isn't where you always necessarily want to meet somebody, but had a really powerful conversation. And just to give some folks, maybe a little bit of your backstory growing up, what that was like, and what was happening at that time.
Yep. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me. Again, my name is Jeremy Jordan. I was born on the south side of Chicago. Just grew up like most people in like underprivileged, underserved neighborhoods. My mom had me at 17 years old. My dad really wasn't in my life. Just turned to the streets. All my friends were doing it. Just all we knew. Just growing up in the trenches. Just grew up the rough life. Like Arne said, up until like 18 years old, I was just in the streets, in and out of jail, house arrest, probation, almost got juvenile life. Yeah, so I met Arne. My brother got shot with an AR 4 times. He's paralyzed now. And then I met him while I was in Cook County Jail. I got caught with a gun, going to retaliate for my brother. And then we were in like a specific holding area for young men between the ages of 18 and 24, and I was 18 at the time, and it was just a crazy experience because the day I got bonded out was the day I met Arne. So like I went to go speak to Arne at 8 in the morning, and then by 12 o'clock I was bonded out, but if just like by the grace of God, I met him, and then he gave me his number. I went back. I was sleeping on the floor, and then sleeping on the floor. So I really didn't want to do it. Like I just was like, man, just another person talking. No really point of calling. Everybody says they want to help, but I called him. He told me to come to his office. Went to his office. He was like, "What do you want to do with your life?" Something I can't remember like verbatim what we talked about, but it was just basically like, "What do you want to do with your life?" And then I told him, and then we just began the process of rehabilitation and just starting to think different and ease onto the process. And then like a year and a half later, I had an interview with DLA Piper with Rich. I was working with my mother-in-law at the time because I was fighting my gun case, so I couldn't get hired anywhere. So some attorney, he gave me a shot with my now fiance's mom. They hired me, and I was just like running errands for him. And then Rich gave me an email, sent me an email, and then interviewed me, and then started working at DLA, just like painting offices, doing like food runs, food service, and then like just being in that environment and just being around professionals and being around people who care about people and just really care about their craft and work hard. It just motivated me to want to do more for myself and just keep pushing myself. And then I ended up getting the opportunity to like work with our real estate team, which is probably the best real estate attorneys in the world, in my opinion. So if you need work, come work with us. So yeah, so I got an opportunity, and then a month into my tenure in my new position, I got shot 4 times. So I was at a party celebrating my 24th birthday. Like I said, I was already separated from the streets. I was kind of outside of it, outside looking in, but of course, I'm from the streets. Everybody I know is from the streets, so I'm still associated with it. So I got caught at the wrong place at the wrong time, got shot, grazed in my ear. I almost died, got shot at point blank range. Somebody was on top of me, got shot in the head, so it was like a crazy experience. Still dealing with it to this day, but yeah, so now I'm just trying to continue my education, and like for me, I just like from where I'm from, I kind of already made it, but I don't want to stop here and just continue to grow and be a better person. But I think it's always good to give people opportunities, and without opportunities, I wouldn't be here. So thank you again.
It's a lot there, and we can talk all day, but I'll ask one more question, and I want to go to Rich. But you are who you are because of where you came from, and you're never going to abandon, your community and your people, and to walk in these two very different worlds every day. there are challenges on both sides of that. And it is a journey, it's not a destination. And so how do you navigate, going back to the neighborhood and talking to your people and talking to your family? Brother's paralyzed, sisters has some real challenges. Then how do you walk into I go to lunch sometimes at his office. It's like the fanciest place I go. It's amazing. He treats me to lunch, and it's two very, very different worlds. So how do you navigate that today, and how have you navigated that over time?
Yeah, it's super tough. Like I said, everybody that I know personally, like that I grew up with, like even my family, like it's just all street life, like selling drugs and tinting windows and living in the trenches and all the stuff that comes with it. So it's really hard even to this day to separate myself from it, because I just gotta like isolate myself is kind of what I do, and just kind of keep myself busy with work and just not try to forget where I come from, but kind of keep it a distance and just try to move smart. But it's really hard to stay away from it forever. It's like staying away from your family and stuff like that. But it's just try to keep a balance and just try to be smart. And now it's just keep myself out of harm's way to the best of my ability. But I mean, in today's world, you never know what could happen. But like I said, just try to keep a balance and keep myself busy, really.
And then, like I said, the young men and women generally spend about a year and a half with us, and then we try and spend them off in the legal economy. So we're always trying to find new employers to hire, because I always say I can't sell false hope. I can't say put down the guns and do something different. We have nothing for you at the back end, that I'm part of the problem. Rich and I are almost exactly the same age. We grew up in the same neighborhood, but really didn't know each other growing up. And a mutual friend introduced us. And normally I'm out hustling, trying to talk to folks about, what you think about hiring one of our guys or two of our guys or whatever, but unsolicited, Rich called me and said, do you have, anyone that might want to come work? And Rich is pretty quiet and humble, but he's a star at DLA Piper, a long-term partner. And honestly, in 8 years, I haven't gotten a whole lot of those calls of people out of the blue saying, can I help? And it was just sort of fortuitous timing that not too long after that, Jeremy and I were talking. But Rich, sort of what made you reach out at first? And maybe tell a little bit about your background, because you think differently than a lot of folks. And I think that's we're a little biased. We're both from Hyde Park, but I think that upbringing shapes you in some pretty interesting ways.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I don't want to give myself or my firm too much credit. I mean, the truth is, Arne's a hard guy to say no to, so you might as well make the call to him before you get the call from him. But look, I always think that we have to think outside the box, and we have to take risks, and we have to work with tomorrow's generation. And I'm a big fan, and I'm so grateful to Arne for what he's doing for our city, for what he's doing for these young men, young women, how he's helping to transform neighborhoods and give kids or young adults important opportunities. And the truth is, 7 years or so ago, when I was introduced to Jeremy and agreed that we would try to hire Jeremy in a very limited role at the time, it was to work in our hospitality group. Jeremy was like setting up lunches like this. And he did so, very well. He showed amazing, a great demeanor, great work ethic. But at the time, 7 years ago, I mean, I knew for a fact that there was every chance Jeremy would not succeed, even after having gone through Arne's program. But if we're not willing to take risks for people like Jeremy and think outside the box, then I don't think we're going to really be able to change society in ways that I think are important to all of us. I will say that 7 years ago, I knew it was a risk, but I was willing to take it because it was Arne, and because it doesn't take you long to be exposed to Jeremy to know that he's the real deal. But there were a lot of people that were skeptical, and I'm grateful to Arne and to Jeremy for how good Jeremy and Arne have made me look. I mean, we get people saying, "Where'd you get Jeremy from?" I say, it's a very important story that you should hear, and that Jeremy will tell you if you just ask him. I'm grateful that Jeremy is part of my life, professionally and personally. I always say that I've got 2 sons, one of whom looks like me and the other one who looks like Jeremy. But anyway, I just think that the opportunity to be enriched by people like Jeremy at your place of work is a real gift. I had no idea that Jeremy and I would develop the bond that we have, but I'm so grateful for it. And really, without Arne investing in these young men and offering employers like us the opportunity to, again, think outside the box and onboard them in a role that seems fitting for their skill set at the time and give them the opportunity to evolve. I'll just close by saying this. Jeremy's been promoted 3 times since he joined us 7 years ago. He is now a senior transactional assistant. I work side by side with him as a real estate partner at my firm. I would rather have Jeremy than 3 associates who cost 3 times more than Jeremy. He is that amazing. He is that responsive. And I'll just close with an anecdote I shared with Arne, which is one of my colleagues who's a pretty tough critic and a pretty tough customer says to me the other day, after Jeremy had completed yet another amazing task for him, he said, "We got to make sure Jeremy goes to law school." And Arne just said, "Well, we got to make sure Jeremy gets his undergraduate first, and then he can go to law school." But anyway, so sorry for the long-winded answer, but I feel very strongly about Arne's program, the success of Jeremy, and hopefully the successes of many others like him.
If I could just follow up on a couple of questions, Rich. One, obviously, settling this internally probably wasn't easy and probably hadn't been done before, and I was candid. I would love to say we've had 50 other law firms follow suit in the past 7 years here. That's honestly not the case. And there haven't been a lot of others follow suit, but one, how did you sell it? Well, I'll start there. How did you sell it internally, and what was the honest pushback you got?
Look, at the end of the day, if you achieve a level of professional success, you can sort of pay it forward, and you develop credibility, and I was willing to sort of cash some of that in. That's the truth. The concerns, obviously, and I think other law firms would say this, is that people with criminal records, they worry, lawyers are lawyers, so they worry about risk, they worry about all sorts of things like that. Nobody knew Jeremy at the time that he came in, and every time that I would say, well, he was vetted by Arne, he went through a very thoughtful and extensive year-long program. Arne wouldn't introduce Jeremy to me if Arne didn't vouch for Jeremy's character. That only goes so far with your colleagues, so at some point you have to sort of extend yourself personally and hope that people are going to make a bet on Jeremy because they're willing to make a bet on you.
And our stories are very real. These are not, happily ever after. And I don't know everyone at DLA Piper, but you probably haven't had too many other partners and colleagues get shot a couple times and almost die once they're working for you. And could be a really good time to abandon ship and to leave. And frankly, that's not the only time that's happened to us. We had another young man working at Deloitte, and he got shot 4 times. The guy next to him got killed after he started Deloitte. So this is just our reality is very, very difficult. And that's the sort of fork in the road. And rather than you abandoning ship, you went all in and helped out in some extraordinarily personal ways that just for you guys to know. But what was that like for you personally, and what was that like for the firm to go through that? Because that's not something you're probably used to dealing with.
No. At the time that Jeremy was injured, he'd been with us for quite a while. And so we knew that it was sort of a wrong place, wrong time sort of scenario. You and I will recall the text exchange that you and I had where we said, what the F was Jeremy doing in that neighborhood in the first place? So he hasn't been back to that neighborhood since. I always say that the only time Jeremy's allowed to be on the west side of Chicago is on his way from the train in the suburbs to the train downtown. That doesn't mean that he's withdrawn from his commitment to the neighborhood, but it does mean that he has withdrawn his physical presence from that neighborhood because too many people know him, and when you achieve a level of success, in certain neighborhoods, people want to tear you down. And you're just not going to let that happen to you. So at the end of the day, it's a process. It's organic. I mean, not everybody's the same way. We had 2 other folks that worked for us. One of them was a wonderful performer, and you remember him. He passed away from natural causes, which was devastating to all of us. And the third one we got, who was a very solid performer, for whatever reason, he moved on to a different line of work. That too was a success. So we've got a pretty good batting average. I wish the White Sox batting average was as high as ours is, but anyway, and We all have that in common as well. Anyway, so sorry to belabor the point, but I really do think that I know who all of you are. I know your profiles. I know your industries, and I know that you have some of the same internal challenges that a law firm would have as well. And I just think that work with local partners and work with individuals like Jeremy who come highly recommended by Arne. Not every city has an Arne Duncan, former Secretary of Education. Somebody who's got amazing gravitas around here, and that's why he's one of the reasons he's been able to have the effect that he has. But take a chance and think outside the box, and not everybody's going to be a Jeremy, but you'll be surprised at how many are.
Last question for you, Rich, then I'll go to Jeremy, then I'll open up to you guys. Then I always say, if someone wants to write us a $25,000 check, that's great, we'll take it. But giving somebody a $25,000 job is actually more valuable and is a much harder ask. And just what was that calculation? You could have gone that route, and I would have been very thankful for that. But you went a different route, and just what was the thinking there?
Well, part of it was you didn't ask for my money. You asked for us to accept one or more of your young men. So I think it's a tribute to you, right? You've certainly got to go out and raise your money and all that kind of stuff. I know that you're privately funded, which is great. It's going to allow you to survive, challenging times for not-for-profits right now. But I really do think, I view this as sort of community service, not that you're a charity project, but that you are, I had not met Jeremy but once when we decided to sort of onboard him, and obviously, you don't know what you're going to get. So I do think, though, that rather than writing a check, I think the greater value and the more personally enriching scenario is one where you sort of put sweat into the thing, put sweat equity into the enterprise. And again, I think we're really pleased that we did and really fortunate. And so, yeah, it's easy to sort of default to writing the check, but that's not what you asked us to sign up for, and so we sort of followed your lead, frankly.
And Jeremy, I think too often people think people are successful despite their upbringing, and you had huge challenges all your life growing up. But I often think people like you are successful because of your upbringing. And what were some of the things you learned growing up? I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I won't say. What are some of the things, the attributes that you being able to survive and make it have enabled you to be so successful in a corporate law environment?
First of all, I think hard work, no matter what you do, is always going to pay off. You can never go wrong with hard work. But honestly, number two is street smarts. I just try to use street smarts to my advantage and what I know. And I feel like sometimes people in that environment are they're book smart, but they're not street smart. So I got them beat in that attribute. So I feel like I just try to use that to my advantage. So I feel like just
sometimes you're street dumb too.
Exactly. So yeah, just try to use my street smarts to my advantage and just be smart and do my homework and due diligence on everything and just hard work, and that's really what I tell people who because I still got younger guys people that I grew up with who are younger than me, and they see me and they're like, man, how you get that job, or how do I do that? And I just tell them man, honestly, it's just hard work. It's a cliche saying, or it's corny, but it's true. It's work hard and just try to use what you're good at to your advantage, and try to relearn. Always try to be a sponge and soak everything up, and being around people like Rich, and she's not here, but Katie, and our team is they're really smart people, and just try to soak everything up, and just never be scared to ask questions, and all those things I feel have really gotten me to where I'm at and where I continue to want to be, is hard work and just try to use my street smarts and all the stuff that I'm good at to my advantage to get to where I want to be.
Last two quick questions, and we'll open up to your questions. First of all, guys you grew up with, do they think you sold out? Do you think you're soft? Do you think you're lame? Do you think that you work for the police? Are they proud of you?
Yeah, no, that's funny. It's funny because he knows that's how that goes. But yeah, no, of course, there's always people like that, just man, you soft as hell. Excuse my language, just soft. you're this, you're that, or, at first it would bother me a lot, or just try to like, come back to the neighborhood in the summer and come hang out and be around and, do those things that I used to do. And just can't do those things and not fall into that trap and be self-confident. And it's like having confidence in yourself. And I know what I am, and I'm not gonna let nobody knock me off my square, So to a certain extent, yeah, there's always those always those people who want to see you get torn down, or haters and stuff like that. And that's why I just keep my friends and my brothers and people who I really care about close. And like, I really don't care about anybody else's opinion. But before, it really bothered me. And I know that's a trap that a lot of people where I'm from fall into when they to get ahead, is like they get people in the hood who want you to come back and still be the same person. Or like, they think you're Hollywood, or that's another one, Hollywood, Mr. Hollywood, and stuff like that. So it's just keep focused and just be who you are and be confident in yourself.
And last question. Obviously, I'm incredibly thankful to Rich and incredibly proud of Jeremy, but I'm actually less proud of what he's doing personally, which is amazing, but sort of your vision for what you want to do for the city and for other young folks. So just before we close, give people a little bit of a sense of what you're trying to do for others.
Yeah, right now I don't have a lot of money, so it's hard for me to do what I really want to do. But just one day I want to have just try to redirect the park districts and use those as a hubs for community centers, and use established park districts to use them as like a hub for the communities, and free daycare and stuff like that for moms who can't afford daycare and stuff like that, and stuff that really helps people, and after school programs that are paid for where you don't have to pay, stuff like that. One day I hope to make enough money to pay for all those things. So one day, yeah.
Thank you. And we got a couple minutes left, so I want to stop. And any questions any of you have, just, I don't think we have mics, but just stand up and, got a mic runner? Yep. Yeah. Any questions for Rich or Jeremy? We're happy to take them. You guys, the mic coming in the back.
Thank you. It's not a question, but thank you guys for being here. I am with Goodwill Industries International. Our member Goodwill see a lot of Jeremys, a lot of, male and female versions. And I think that a lot has been talked about this morning about augmenting your talent pipeline, looking at other resources, giving people that chance or that second chance. And Jeremy is who that is, right? And we have to really make a difference and a change. Everybody won't be an Arne, right? Because you don't have the resources to do it. You don't have the name behind you and the heart to do it all at once. But everybody in this room has heard what Jeremy said. There are so many nuggets that have been provided this morning that kind of make up that whole pie of Jeremy's story. And in the work that we do, if we take it back and use him as an example and the things that we learned today, I think we each will be able to make a difference. At Goodwill, without the Jeremys, without the funding, the people that work every day that provide just what you want to do, Jeremy, the funding for the daycare, the wraparound services for mothers and fathers to go to work, we cannot change. We cannot make that change. So I guess is one of the kind of the give or the ask to really take a look at how you can make a difference in your talent pipeline to give people a chance, whether it's connecting them through like a tech systems or a Goodwill Industries. I think we all can make a huge difference with just the knowledge that we've heard this morning. So,
Thank you.
Hi. So I'd like to kind of piggyback off of Jeremy's story. So I'm from Chicago, grew up in the Austin neighborhood. At birth, was given up foster homes, etc. Grew up, kind of same situation, street life, etc. Was run over by vehicles, house was set on fire, a lot of situations. And then finally, I moved away from the Austin neighborhood, moved to like by Prairie Shores, which is like near South Loop. And there was a company Kelly Services, who took a chance on me. And long story short, they ended up getting me a job with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. That turned into taking some classes at a workforce center on Columbus, turned into becoming a certified business analyst, then turned into becoming a project manager, getting a job with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, then turned into basically building software for Comcast. And so that was about 12 years or so, 12 to 14 years or so in that line of work. Completely kind of changed my trajectory, changed my life, etc. And what I would say is, then around 2022 was kind of wrong place, wrong time. Similar situation. There was actually an altercation. I went to actually like break up the altercation, and I ended up getting shot 3 times. And so, and then slightly after that, I started my own technology company called GoSee. So we're the first ever visual intelligence on-demand platform. And so now we're projected that within 6 years or so, we'll achieve $1 billion valuation. But just thinking about, you know, his story, coming from similar neighborhoods, transitioning, you know, to corporate, you know, cleaning the kind of background, et cetera, that really, you know, it's just, there are a lot of kids or folks coming up in our circumstance, in our background. And when you think about having to survive different lifestyles, different circumstances, different things, you know, you're just born into. Imagine what the innovation does in a real corporate environment, or innovation does in technology or community or whatever the case it is. It's something that you can't find just from a regular kid going to school, et cetera. So definitely in your hires and your talent acquisition, you know, please think about folks in different communities, because like same situation, you know, one opportunity will change everything. So for me, it was Kelly Services giving me an opportunity, led to me to be in advanced engineering, and then started my own technology company. So thank you.
Thank you.
Am I on? Can you hear me? Thanks. Good morning. Anna Smith with Education Strategy Group. Thank you all for sharing and presenting. I know many of us in this room, as we're looking at the pillars of Angela's book, and we're thinking about what someone said earlier, when business being business is the greatest lever for change. And Rich, maybe this is to you, a little to you, Arne. As you think about the fact that it was taking a chance, taking a risk, right, one-by-one interactions, what advice do you have for the folks in this room who are working with chambers of commerce and industry associations and ecosystems and policymakers trying to help scale so it's not just one by one and it's truly something that business can do? How can we all help you and others like you, or those that you work with, Arne, do more to take on that risk and not just have it be a one-for-one?
Encourage others to do what you're doing. You're right all about scale, right? I mean, it's like, it's great that we've, excuse me, it's great that we've got one Jeremy here. We'd like there to be 100 Jeremys, 1,000 Jeremys, you know, 10,000 Jeremys, et cetera. And the only way that you can do that, I think, is just to sort of work with other chambers of commerce is a great idea. Work with other law firms, you know, word of mouth, and just sort of trying to institutionalize best practices. And again, opportunities like this, the speaker, I wanted to say young man, you're... Young man. Yeah, young man, yeah. Because that way I can be middle-aged. But, you know, just testimonials like that are really important. And when, you know, mainstream, you know, American industry starts to see that you can really achieve successes by thinking outside the box, you know, then imitation becomes the highest form of flattery and more people do it. And I try to work with my counterparts at other law firms to try to make similar introductions and similar pleas. And, you know, it's incremental, but I really appreciate the question, and I'm going to turn it over to the guy who really knows how to answer it.
I'll be quick, and I know we got to wrap. I'll say 2 things. We're lucky to have about 36 employers who are hiring at the back end. but we are not at scale. And we're trying to scale this work in other neighborhoods with partners. In Austin, we're in deep right now, and we're going to have a series of alumni coming out of Austin soon. We have to have jobs. And like I said earlier, we don't have 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 other law firms that have done what DLL Piper has done. The other example some of you guys may know is the Discover call center in Chatham that's been extraordinarily successful and is a money maker for Discover, and no one's followed suit. It's really interesting to watch. So even the economics of this stuff is that fear, that taking a risk is still a barrier we have not crossed. And I would love to say we got 7 call centers now, south and west sides, but despite all those successes, we don't. So we have a lot of individual, remarkable leaders like Rich who have stepped up, but it is not at scale. And as we scale this work, I'm actually very concerned about that. That's one. Second thing, I'll just close with, real quick, what age did you have to start making money?
13.
So our youngest guy in our program, most guys is 12 to 13, they have to start making money. Our youngest was 9, told me that's when he had to start making money. And we have to make money at 9 or 12 or 13. There's only one person hiring. No one in rooms like this are hiring you. So I actually reject the second chance notion. I really think it's a first chance for the vast majority of our young people, that family and schools and community and nonprofits and churches, everybody was not present. And the guys who were hustling were the only people who were present. And so I don't want a lot more second chances. I want a lot more first chances. And I'll just close that Jeremy made a very rational choice at 12 and 13 to do what he did. He made another rational choice later because he had another opportunity. And if more of our young people had good rational choices at 12 or 13, 15, 16, 17, we could combat so much of the craziness and dysfunction that we see. Thank you so much for having us today. Appreciate it.